We are
Didi.
and Arma, and in our daily lives we support people on the path of self-liberation. We teach time-tested energy skills like Qigong, Tai Chi, internal alchemy, traditional nutrition and meditation.
We help people release stagnation, build energy, and become aligned with themselves and their purpose in life.
In this podcast we share the methods, skills and solutions that helped us, our students and now hopefully you move forward.
Let's explore transformation together.
And what's the subject?
Ooh, we're gonna talk about meat or no meat.
To meet or not to meet?
Yeah, something
That's
like
the question.
that. To eat or not to eat.
Okay, yeah, interesting topic.
Eat meat or no meat. And I think it's a very it's a subject that a lot of people think about these days. You hear a lot about people who want to eat vegetarian or eating vegetarian or even vegan.
Yeah, people are really conscious about the effects of, the meat industry nowadays and the effects on the climate. And so there's a lot going on that subject. Yeah.
So, and we eat vegetarian. We're no vegans, but vegetarians. So we don't eat any meat, also no fish, but we do eat some eggs and
some cheese, some
cheese. Yeah. So and I think it's interesting to talk how we came to eat vegetarian.
Yeah. When did it start, and in what time of our lives did we decide to to try it? Really, I mean, it was trial. Yeah, that was it. It was more a conscious decision of trying this for our health and for seeing what it did into our systems, what kind of effect it has. Well, I think if you've been... Well, I was training for a while when we started. It was 2014, right? So I was training since 2006. So that was quite a while already. I was training. And at a certain point, I think I needed to really look at
your diet.
My diet, but I was much more aware of my energy. And then I felt all these... Sometimes my energy was very high and it would be low. So it was really going all over the place. So... That was around the time that we actually started looking at our food in general, right? Yeah. And then, of course, when you look in the Qigong world, meditation and everything, then, loads of people are vegetarian when you look around, right? Yeah. So I just had to try it to see what it would do for me. Yeah. And so the only thing I could do was like, okay, take like a month or something and see how you actually feel.
Yeah. Yeah,
and the truth is, I never went back. So
you did go back for a little, or just to try what it did.
Yeah, I never went back to eating meat like regular, but I wanted to, and that was not after a month or something. That was way longer. It was maybe a year and a half later that it was winter time and my energy was a little bit lower. And here in Holland, the winters can be long and dark. So I was like. And I think my energy was a little bit low, and I thought, let's try it again.
I think it was when I started my studies, and I studied about traditional Chinese medicine on food, and what they say in traditional Chinese medicine is that, if you eat meat, it's also a way to build, as they call it, blood, easier.
Yeah.
So we thought, why not try and just see what it does for our energy? But it, it was...
Yeah, but it sort of makes sense. If you decide to, okay, I may be going down a wrong path now, but to really try and to see what it does, if you haven't done it for like a year and a half, and then you eat it again, what happens?
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend this with smoking or drinking or any of that stuff, but this, I wasn't addicted or something, right? It's more like, we'll come back to that later. But I think if you really want to know, you have to try it. And I did. And I was in shock.
Ooh.
And you were in shock as well.
Oh,
I
I
think
couldn't eat it at all.
my whole environment was in shock, I guess,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, it was like,
Yeah.
what I did, I bought 3 sausages. They were in a pack, right? The best we could buy, biological, everything, right? Organic. So the first day, I was like, okay, I'll take 1.5, something like that, and that went fine. But then the next day, I took the other 1.5, and it was not fine at all.
No.
So what happened? I mean, it was like oil on the fire, as we would say in Holland. Yeah, roughly translated, right? So it was so much young. There was so much fire coming, and it gave me a mood swing like crazy. I was becoming aggressive. It was incredible. I was on the highway with my car, and I was like, I was almost in road rage. It was crazy what it did to me. So so then I was like, no, I cannot do this anymore. I don't know. And I can also say I didn't really like it anymore. I didn't really like the smell, taste, and everything. It was.
It's so intense. It's such an intense taste, especially if you eat really good meat. If you eat the real
deal.
It's such powerful. It's real.
Yeah, it is super powerful, and I could only figure that out by trying it again.
Yeah.
And I'm not sorry I did. You know, I mean that's how I work. You know, everyone has to figure that out for themselves.
Yeah.
But that's how I work, I think. And sometimes I want to go back, and then I never went back after that.
No, it's it's something, but maybe it's good to look back at when we grew up.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Because we both grew up with eating meat and eating
my parents weren't vegetarians or anything.
No, and it was my aunt. She was vegetarian. My uncle and aunt, where I went to a lot. I stayed over there quite a lot.
But that's really interesting because you're saying that, and I didn't know any vegetarians in my surroundings when I was young, growing up in the 70s and the 80s. I didn't know them, but you had them very close.
Yeah, and I was there a lot, and but it was funny. I didn't really feel attracted to meat. Or to any, either a chicken or fish, or any animal. I was not attracted to eat it. It was on my plate. It was presented to me because my mother would cook it.
Yeah.
But if I could choose, I would not eat it. Like if we ate pancakes, I would ask my mom not to put any bacon in it. Or if we ate pizza, I said, "Oh no, for me,
no salami,
or anything on top of it."
So you were already pretty aware. Well, listening to your feeling and your taste. Was it just a taste, or was it also?
I didn't like the taste.
Or was it the whole idea? Was it?
No, it was not the idea. I wasn't really thinking about what it was that I was eating. I think for a lot of people that counts, that you're not really aware of what's on your plate. You just eat it.
But so many people, as many people as there's as many reasons why you, but you were already quite aware of that. And how old were you when you were?
I think as long as I can remember.
As
long as I can remember.
And that's why your brother became very tall, because he got all your meat, right? Or something.
My mom would make, in Holland, it's very common to eat potatoes, some vegetables, and some meat. Something.
Yeah.
And my brother would always sit next to me, and I would eat and then think, oh no, I don't really want the rest, and gave him the extra. So he loves his meat.
And he loved you, of course. He still does. So,
So,
But did your mom? That's interesting. Maybe did she keep offering it to you, or was there a moment that she said, "Well, okay, I'm not going to give Didi because
she would still be cooking. uh, especially when you ate something like spaghetti or a nasi, which already had the chicken in it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, of course, yeah, because that's more like of a mix, right?
Yeah,
It's already
it's
ready
a-
mixed, and yeah.
And there would always be something like chicken in it.
Yeah, a
or-
little bit of ham or something like that. Yeah.
And ham, what? I didn't like that at all. So, but in those days, people didn't eat that much.
That's
Meat.
true. I think the
So-
portions were definitely smaller
Yeah.
than they are now. Yeah.
And we had days that we didn't eat any meat. So it was just something, a vegetarian dish.
And my mom, she bought it at the butcher's,
Yeah.
not at the supermarket. Maybe later, I'm not sure, but she would always go to the village butcher. And that's another thing as well, right?
Yeah.
It's more, and I think in the 70s, 80s, I think it was more local.
And my mom as
Yeah.
well. I think it was other times.
Local produce, yeah.
It was more local produce, and you would go to the butcher and not to the supermarket. So you didn't really have those. I don't know the English word for that. The kilo knallers.
Well, it's like these markets that they just offer just a huge amounts of meat
Yeah.
for not a lot of money. So
No.
you're like, I don't know, it's mystery meat.
Mystery meat.
Yeah. But I think we both grew up in a time where there was still a lot of traditional cooking going on.
Yeah.
So, we had the meatballs and we had the sausages and things like that. But the portions weren't that big yet.
No.
I think a lot of the food that we actually ate was really good quality in those days.
We had our own vegetable garden.
Yeah.
So we were
My
very.
parents had that as well for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very aware of these things. And my mom would go out of her way to just get the best stuff in the village, And I mean, this greengrocer, he almost rolled out like a red carpet when she came on. It's like she would always leave with this heavy box of vegetables and
Three
things.
sons.
Yeah, and also when there was when I remember the time when there was a ecological store coming into town, and she was like the first customer, and she's so I was looking back at my youth, it was so great. But I mean, the question of eating meat was not really there.
No, it was
So,
not really
right,
on the
it's not,
table.
we just did it. And then and interesting is then when you leave the house, and then how I think meat came more and more into my life. Actually,
Yeah.
it's like I think I like the taste of it, or the sort of kick it gave, or it would boost my energy. I'm not really sure, but I think at a certain point, and especially when we moved in together, I was eating more and more meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was getting more young every day. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, that's another thing in my youth. When I was 16, I got my first job, like a Saturday job. And that was at the butcher's, which is so funny because when I worked there, I saw all the... this was like a butcher that would still get the carcass.
Yeah.
And they would hang there and they would cut the meat out of the carcass. And I was like, I don't want to eat that. So I went totally vegetarian in those days. And I was 16, so I was cooking at home. And so my mom was okay with me cooking most of the meals. And in those days, my parents just had to deal with what I presented them. So they would still eat meat. But especially then, I was like, oh no, this is not for me.
Well, you get to look behind the curtain, as we say it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's happening here,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And this
But
was
the funny is that you stay working in such a job, right?
Yeah, and my brother was working there, and I got a job there, and it...
Yeah, you're just unaware about these things, right? you just do.
And it was a quality butcher, which he was very aware where he got his meat, and so he gave me like a course about all the meats, and so which was interesting, because it got me really aware of what I was eating. And it was also, I think, at that point that I thought, I'm not sure if this is for me.
Yeah, but you also see, and that's also the thing, is that like how the meat is presented, right?
Yeah.
It needs to also be like shiny and red and fresh and
Yeah.
everything. But that's not what meat looks like, right?
No.
So the whole thing, how it's presented and how people do not associate it with an animal anymore. That's
That's different. Yeah.
that's different.
Yeah.
If you go to France, it's different. That's totally
Yeah.
different. If you go to a supermarket there or
Yeah.
something, and then you see that
Yeah.
still the head is on the
Exactly.
animal.
And then I get to when I, because I was saving up money at that time to go to Thailand.
Okay.
Then I moved to Thailand for a year
Yeah.
and do a high school year there. And there they had the chickens running around the house and
It's the fresh
the
guarantee.
and we would, because we lived really up country.
Yeah, rural.
And again, they didn't eat that much meat because it was something that was not as affordable.
Right.
So we had a lot more vegetables and rice and vegetables and a little bit of meat with that and soups and things. But we would have chickens walking around the house, and sometimes my host mom, she would get a chicken and we would we would prepare it to eat.
Yeah, so that's
and
yeah.
I thought, and that was my thing, that if I want to eat it, I have to be able to kill it as well.
and pluck it and
and do
everything.
all those
Yeah.
things because
get the organs out and
I thought it was very
Here's your knife, Didi.
yeah.
Yeah, go grab it. Yeah,
But,
but
exactly.
that's really honest, isn't it?
It's so honest. And I thought, well, that connection with your food, if you want to eat it, then you should be able to do those things. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise, you're not very honest to the animal.
No,
that you're
and if
eating.
you see when like middle of the 80s towards the end of the 80s, I think that's the time I remember that the more fast food restaurants became bigger.
Yeah.
And there was one that was closer to our area, because there was an American air base there.
Yeah.
F-15 strike fighters over there, right? So they built the first drive-through McDonald's there.
Wow.
And that was like a happening.
Yeah.
It was like everyone went there. It was like in the middle of nowhere, crazy, really, because it's next to an airstrip, So, but everyone would go in their cars and McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
And
So
you see
funny,
all
yeah.
these others, all these other chains popping up, right, in the cities and everything. And also you saw in the village where I grew up, there's like this more Egyptian style meat, shawarma style, kebab style coming in. So there's actually all this meat coming. It's just coming into our lives, right? And it becomes a social thing. So you hang out there at Friday nights.
It's so funny that you're saying, because I'm just remembering that when we were 11, 12, there was the first McDonald's coming into the town where I lived. And we had those birthday parties there, preparing a burger. And then you could eat it. You could all go into the kitchen and to the freezer.
Yeah, there were parties and things like that. So you see that the amount of meat that's coming into your life is so much more than it was before. And now it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot drive on a highway without seeing some sign of some fast food restaurant, right? And seeing all the garbage littered everywhere of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's terrible.
It's crazy what it's doing, and I think people have really lost the association with what it actually is: animals, right?
Yeah.
And the effect it has on nature and on climate and everything.
And it's something that I get the chills of. I think if you really have a connection with your food and you have your own animals, that's the most natural thing that you can have, that every kind of like every year you butcher some of your cows, like in New Zealand. My
Yeah.
family there, they
They
have
own
the
cows,
cows,
and then
and
the butcher comes, and then
yeah,
when they're grown,
and then
yeah.
they eat them, but they nurtured them, and so every piece of meat is is cherished. They don't throw it out. They that's their animal that they're eating there,
Yeah.
and they get that energy out of the animal. But if you go to sometimes to these barbecues and you see all that meat thrown away, it's just
I didn't see it when I was younger, I guess, but it maybe wasn't that extreme. I'm not really sure. And now it's like, well, this is a podcast not about
No.
you should stop eating meat, right? But this is what happened to us when we stopped eating it, and you were more aware than I, but that all these things that you see happening right around you, and like how people treat it, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That is pretty bad.
I think it's all about the connection that you have with your food, and how much and don't get me wrong, I think it's the same with all the vegetables. If you grow them yourself, you know how much effort goes into growing vegetables. It's not something that's there. It's not right in the supermarket. It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of effort. It takes a farmer to grow it, to nurture it, and then take it to a place where it can be sold.
And the whole industry about these animals need feeding as well, right? Yeah. And where's that produced, and the impact that it has on... I mean, there's states in America that are just for this industry, I guess, right?
Yeah. So
but you owe it to yourself, if you're training, and you're training energy, that you really investigate this.
Yeah. And see what it does. What I really, really loved about traditional Chinese or 5-element food is that it's not about good or bad food. It's about what does it do for your system.
Yeah.
And that's the question that we want to ask ourselves. What does it do for my system? Does it agree with me? For some women, especially women that... have problems with their menstruation, that don't have enough blood, it sometimes can be a great way to eat some meat to build blood more easily. So most men love meat, and there you think, don't eat it. It's not good for you. It's something.
They're so young already,
yeah.
and with all the alcohol that's going with it. If we go through the neighborhood here on a summer's day, it's incredible what you smell around you. It's all these barbecues at the same time.
Yeah.
And so you owe it to yourself to investigate, I guess. We're not saying right or wrong here. That's not at all what we're saying. What we're saying is investigate for yourself and allow yourself enough time to investigate how it works for you if you don't eat meat, right?
Yeah.
Your energy might be boosted incredibly. So, and on the other hand, you want to also investigate, right? You were saying is maybe you have a shortage that you have give yourself a diet for maybe a month or something where you build blood and you just use it in the most respectful way as you can do.
Yeah.
Right, because there's a lot of people, I think, putting a lot of effort in bringing them up, the animals up in the best possible way and everything. Yeah. So there's so many people aware of this problem now that if you really investigate a little bit, then you will find good quality, and that's no mystery meat, and that's really important.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of
misconception.
Yeah, but what did the animal eat? What was injected into the animal? Hormones or things like that, and you want to know that stuff.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of things to investigate for yourself, how you feel about eating, and it's not just meat. What I said, it's everything you put into your mouth.
Yeah.
It's all the foods, all the processed foods. But also if it's about real food that we recognize as food.
Yeah.
It's still, where does it come from? How is it produced? It's all good questions.
Absolutely. And I think, if you're on a spiritual path, if you're on a feeling path, if you're on an energy path, and you want to cultivate stillness, you have to know and understand that a lot of food just builds young, and you're just putting oil on the fire all the time, and you're sitting there like, oh, why can't I shut up, right? Well, this has a huge impact. So I never went back. I don't think I ever will. I don't feel that anymore. I feel I have enough power coming out of the stillness to support me. And of course, we eat in a way that we still get all the things the nutrients that we need to move on. And I came from this hilly alpine country style chart. I went down to a beautiful sloping, and that feels so much better, And but it takes some adjusting, and
was a good side thing that when we started to eat exclusively vegetarian is that we started to eat so much more diverse.
Oh yeah,
we got more cookbooks, because it's a funny thing. You think like, from growing up, and I was already into some more vegetarian dishes, but a lot of people think, but what should I eat if I don't eat any meat or fish? And,
that's incredible.
What should my plate look like?
Well, if you're stuck in the more traditional, Dutch approach, then it's pretty hard. It's like so you have your vegetables, you have your potatoes, and that's it. Okay, and now what? But I think it's pretty. I want to talk also about a little bit about the impact it has on our environment when we decided to go vegetarian, right? Just to try that, and I think that's pretty incredible as well. It's the reactions you get from your from your environment. So be prepared for that, because and if you're listening to this and you are vegetarian, you know this. It's sometimes not so easy because it's so conditioned. Yeah. And there's this thing about meat I sometimes see with people is like, it's almost like I earned this or something. It's like the meat is the thing that is also with celebrations or barbecues. The first thing you see is a lot of meat and alcohol, of course, but. It's funny. It was not so easy in the beginning. Now they're all used to it. And there's more awareness. I mean, this is since 2014, so it's a while already. Yeah.
And you see so many more restaurants, especially in the area where we live. You have some areas in Holland where it's a lot...
it's more rural, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're more in the cities area, so you see a lot of vegetarian and vegan, and that has really come up.
Yeah, and so I love that.
That's great. There's so much to choose from.
And also when you eat with friends, you see that they're also more aware. And,
it's become a lot easier, And I think that the whole time is especially asking now for people is like we should cut down on that and feel more. And
now it's funny because both your parents are mostly vegetarian.
It's true. They've changed around.
And your brother.
And my brother. So it's true.
Yeah. So you see that there's a lot of people around you then.
Yeah, but we don't have Netflix, but I know there's documentaries about that as well, and I hear a lot of people talking about that, and that's a good thing.
And the younger generation, because your cousin,
definitely,
or your nieces and nephews.
Yeah, so there's hope there. I think if people can cut down, they will feel better, they will be healthier. You will see it in the charts. You will see it definitely in the health charts, right? Yeah. And so you have to decide for yourself.
And
right?
try. It's all about trying.
Absolutely. It's all in the experience. If you think about this stuff, there's all these things going on, but just try it and feel. How do I feel? Yeah. You feel better? Explore further. and see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
So we wish you luck with that.
Yeah. Go experiment. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you like this, like and subscribe.
There's more coming.
And hope to see you next time.
Absolutely. Okay, bye people.
Bye.